What is a good joke you know nobody's heard before? I know several jokes in sign language. I guarantee nobody has ever heard them. I think there's something wrong with the cactus I'm growing, but I can't put my finger on it. I've been growing a cactus for 10 years, and it's only an inch tall. I just told this joke to my teenager and she went and looked excellent. Sometimes keeping the joke to yourself is more amusing than someone else understanding it. You can put your fingers on me, brother. All in due time, little fella, all in due time. My wife said she wants to, experiment more in the bedroom, but it looks like I'm in the control group. This is like a very modern Rodney Dangerfield joke. A girl said, "Come over, there's nobody home." I went over, there was nobody home. My wife likes to talk a lot after sex, so she calls me when I'm on the road. Man says to his wife, "Why don't you tell me when you orgasm?" She replies, "I don't like ringing you at work." I went to a strip club. There was a sign out front that said topless, bottomless. I went inside. There was nobody there. What do you call a little boy who's half French and half Scottish? A wee lad. Q. Why did the walrus go to the Tupperware party? A. He was looking for a tight seal. This is hilarious and awful at the same time. Congratulations. Surely to a walrus all seals are tight. I like hearing the variations people use for the same joke. I tell it like this. Q. What does a walrus and Tupperware have in common? A. They both like a tight seal. A priest decides to take a walk to the pier near his church. He looks around and finally stops to watch a fisherman load his boat. The fisherman notices, and asks the priest if he would like to join him for a couple of hours. The priest agrees. The fisherman asks if the priest has ever fished before, to which the priest says no. He baits the hook for him and says, "Give it a shot, father." After a few minutes, the priest hooks a big fish and struggles to get it in the boat. The fisherman says, "Whoa, what a big son of a bitch." The priest says, "Please sir, can you mind your language?" The fisherman responds, thinking quickly, "I'm sorry father, but that's what this fish is called, a son of a bitch." "Oh, I'm sorry," replied the priest. "I didn't know." After the trip, the priest brings the fish to the church and spots the bishop. "Eminence, look at this big son of a bitch." "Please, father," said the bishop. "Mind your language, this is a house of God." "No, you don't understand," said the priest. "That's what this fish is called, and I caught it. I caught this son of a bitch." Said the bishop. I could clean this son of a bitch and we could have it for dinner." So the bishop takes the fish and cleans it, and brings it to Mother Superior at the convent. "Mother Superior, could you cook this son of a bitch for dinner tonight?" "My lord, what language?" said the Mother Superior. "No, sister," said the bishop. "That's what the fish is called, a son of a bitch. Father caught it, I cleaned it, and we'd like you to cook it." Replied Mother Superior. "Yes, I'll cook that son of a bitch tonight." Well, it turns out that evening, the Pope decides to stop by for a surprise dinner with the three of them. They eat the fish and it turns out to be absolutely delicious. The Pope asks where they got it. "I caught the son of a bitch," said the priest. "And I cleaned the son of a bitch," said the bishop. "And I cooked the son of a bitch," said the Mother Superior. The Pope stares at them for a minute with a steely gaze, but then takes off his hat, puts his feet up on the table, and says, "You know what? You fuckers are all right." This is the only joke I know, a classic Don Blonde joke. A blonde is sitting in a shoe store surrounded by at least 50 boxes of shoes. She says to the shoe salesman, "None of these are good enough. Do you have some alligator shoes?" The exasperated salesman replies with some venom, "Lady, if you want alligator shoes, go get an alligator." Salesman driving home sees the blonde on the bank of the river. She is wrestling an alligator. An epic battle. At last, she throws the dead alligator on top of a pile of alligators next to her. While the salesman looks on in amazement, she says, "Damn, another one without shoes." Those weren't alligators. They were Crocs. This joke was in The Sopranos, but I loved it so much. A rich man and a poor man are both buying anniversary gifts for their girlfriends. "What are you getting your girlfriend?" asks the poor man. And the rich man says, "I'm getting her a diamond ring, and a Mercedes." "Why both?" asks the poor man. And the rich man says that way if she doesn't like the ring she can still enjoy the Mercedes when she returns the ring. And then the rich man asks the poor man, "What are you getting your girlfriend?" And the poor man says, "I'm buying her a pair of slippers and a dildo. That way if she doesn't like the slippers she can go fuck herself." Guy goes into a bar and tells the bartender to line up 10 tequila shots. The bartender does, and the guy downs them one after another. "What are we celebrating?" the bartender asks. "My first blowjob." The guy says, "Hell, let me pour you another one." "Nah. If the first 10 didn't get that taste out of my mouth." One of my favorite moments in the show is when Tony asks his Russian girlfriend what she's reading. She replies, "Chicken Soup for the Soul." Tony looks at her and says, "You should read Tomato Sauce for Your Ass, it's the Italian version." Chinese guy at the eye doctor. Doctor tells him, "I hate to tell you, but you've got a cataract." Chinese guy says, "No, I have Rincontown-car." Old man sitting on a porch when he sees a young man walk by, dragging something behind him. Old man says, "What you got there?" And the young man replies, "Chicken wire." Old man asks, "What are you doing with chicken wire?" Young man replies, "I'm going to catch me some chickens." The old man laughs and says, "You ain't catching no chickens with chicken wire." Sure enough, later that evening, the young man walks by with a mess of chickens all caught in the chicken wire. Next day, old man sitting on his porch when the young man comes walking by, dragging something behind him. Old man says, "What you got there?" And the young man replies, "Duct tape." Old man again asks, "What are you doing with duct tape?" Young man replies, "I'm going to catch me some ducks." The old man laughs and says, "You ain't catching no ducks with duct tape." Sure enough, later that evening, the young man walks back with a mess of ducks all wrapped up in the duct tape. Third day, old man sitting on his porch when the young man again comes walking by, dragging something behind him. Old man says, "What you got there?" And the young man replies, "Pussy willows." Old man says, "Wait up, let me get my hand." 3 altar boys line up for confession. First one goes in and says, "Bless me, Father, I've committed impure acts with a girl classmate." Priest asks, "Was it Bridget O'Flaherty?" Altar boy says, "I can't say." Father priest asks, "Was it Caroline Murphy?" The altar boy says, "Please don't ask Father." Then the priest asks, "Was it Jennifer Smith?" And the altar boy says, "If I say who it is, Father, she could get a reputation." So the priest says, "Well, what you did was wrong and sinful. It is decent of you to withhold her name. For penance I want you to say 2 rosaries, and you can't serve mass for a month." Leaving the confessional, one of the other altar boys asks him, "What did you get?" And he replied, "A month off and 3 good leads." An elderly couple were in church during the Sunday morning sermon. All of a sudden the wife whispers to her husband, "I've just done a silent fart. What should I do?" The husband replies, "Turn up your hearing aids." Alternate version. "Doctor, I'm embarrassed to say, I'm constantly passing gas. They're silent, and they don't smell, but I'd like it to stop. Take these pills and call me in the morning." The next day, "Doctor, your pills didn't help. Not only am I still farting, but now the farts are incredibly loud." "Good. Now that we've fixed your hearing, let's work on your sense of smell." This guy is feeling lonely and he decides to get an exotic pet, so he goes to the exotic pet store and looks around, and suddenly he sees that there's a sale. Rare giant talking centipede, with house. $100. He decides he wants a talking centipede, and takes it home. The guy and the centipede spend several days chatting and drinking beer, and they become good friends. One day, the guy says to the centipede, "Hey, centipede, let's go out to a movie." "Okay, 1 second," the centipede says, and he disappears into his house. 5 minutes go by. 10 minutes, 15, 20. Finally, half an hour later, the guy goes, "Hey Centipede, you ready?" No answer. He taps on the house. "Centipede." The centipede pokes his head out and says, "Hang on man, I'm putting my fucking shoes on." So a man moves to a small village and goes to the pub to make some friends. As he walks in the door, he hears someone shout out number 34. Everyone in the pub lets out a slight chuckle. He goes up to the bar and orders a beer. As the bartender is pouring it, another patron yells number 8. And everyone has a good laugh. Confused, the man asks the bartender, "What's with people calling out numbers?" "Well, this is a small town and everyone grew up together. After hearing the same jokes all the time, we decided to just number them," says the bartender. We hear the number, remember the joke, and save some time. The new guy thinks about it for a second and yells number 93. The room erupts into chaos. People are laughing so hard that they're doubled over. Everyone is wiping tears from their eyes, and a few are having a hard time catching their breath. The man tells the barkeep, "Wow, number 93 must be pretty good." Once the barkeep is able to calm himself, he says, "We've never heard that one." Alternate ending. A guy in the corner stands up and calls out number 17. Silence. The townsfolk just look down in discomfort. The new guy says to the bartender, "Wow, number 17 must be bad." Well, you know, some people can tell a joke and some just can't. A man was passing by a mental asylum and was curious because all the patients were shouting, 14, 14, 14. Now there was a huge wall that divided the public from the patients, so the man couldn't see what was going on. Because of his curiosity, he naturally wanted to see what was happening. He managed to find a peeping hole to look through. As soon as he looked through the hole, the man was promptly poked in the eye by a stick. That's when all the patients started shouting, 15, 15, 15. 3 Catholic schoolgirls die in a bus crash and go to heaven. St. Peter stands in front of the gate next to a golden font of holy water. He says, "Welcome, little sisters. I'm so sorry you were taken before your time. You're all welcome, but I must ask you each a question." He goes to the first girl. "Mary Catherine, has any part of your body touched a boy's private parts?" Only my hands." St. Peter nods and tells her, "Wash your hands in this font. Your sins will be cleansed and then you may enter the gates." And she does so. He turns to the second girl. "Mary Frances." The third girl interrupts, "Excuse me, Father? Could I gargle with that water real quick before Mary Frances sticks her ass in it?"